Okay.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another webinar session from SPE Lagos. Thanks for joining in. I hope we're all doing great and we're all staying safe as well. In today's webinar, the title is Becoming a Change Leader. And we know that the world keeps evolving. In fact, the only constant thing in life, they say, is change. So the world is currently going through unprecedented disruptive change currently. Traditional workplace practices are changing. New processes and tools are being introduced. There is a need for transformation agents and a need for today's workforce DNA to be change ready. This presentation for today, which is going to be delivered by no other than Isioma Asiodu Otugo, where she's going to be sharing practical advice and lessons from several case studies on how to successfully influence change from any level, whatever level you are in your organization or your society. And I believe you don't have to have a certain title as a leader for you to be a change leader. So a little brief on Isioma. Isioma is an onshore asset reliability engineer with Shell. She facilitates local change implementation of global reliability practices and processes. She has 9 years of experience involving upstream production operations, safety, maintenance, and change leadership. As a change leader, she advocates and creates programs that contribute to the advancement of women in the workplace. She continues to influence and promote inclusive workplace culture in her leadership role in the Shell Women's Network. She also volunteers in a community of striving mothers in Nigerian workplaces. She was recently recognized in SPE Lagos Women Leaders in Nigeria in Nigeria's oil and gas industry Hall of Fame. She has a BNG in electrical electronic engineering from University of Benin and is currently completing a master's in engineering business management at the renowned University of Warwick. She's a chartered maintenance and reliability professional. She's married with two beautiful daughters. Without much further ado, I would like to hand over to Isioma to take us through on today's webinar titled Becoming a Change Leader. Isioma, please, over to you.
Thank you, Alicia. I'm delighted to be sharing my experience with this group of Society of Petroleum Engineers. Thanks for the opportunity. And I would like to say that, the experience I'll be sharing today is about my journey, my own perspective, contributing to change and leading change in my personal life and in the workplace. And I hope that you will get some encouragement and inspiration from some of the examples I shared, and also get the courage you need and start implementing change around you or contributing to change. So I would start with some questions. There's a Menti poll. You need to go to Menti and take that poll, and let's see. Have you ever been in a car and the driver is going in a particular direction and you're trying to direct the driver to the right destination because you know the destination, the driver doesn't know the destination? So please respond on the poll. Have you ever moved houses or relocated? Have you danced or hummed to a sound that you're not playing? I'm looking forward to seeing your responses, because these are things that happen in our lives that, because some people move for different reasons. One of my case studies is about relocation. And then you hear some music playing. You may not be playing it in your house, but you find yourself nodding to it, dancing to it, right? And enjoying it, even if you're not the one playing the music. Or you get into an Uber and there's a blockage on the road and you have to go through another route. At that point, you lose network and you are now left to directing the driver to take you to where you want to go. How many of us have experienced that? I can't see your responses yet, but I understand that this is something that is familiar to most of us, right? Okay, so let's move to the next thing about why, because we're taking the first poll for the day. I'm not seeing your response yet.
So we have a few responses coming. I think we have less people that have responded compared to the number of people we're seeing join the session. So please go to menti.com, type in the code you see in the chat room. The code is 483415. 483415, and please respond to the poll. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I can see that from the people that have responded, almost everybody has said yes. So most people are not living in the houses that they were living in, they were born in. You must have moved location, either your parents, with your parents leading the change, or yourself deciding that you need to go to someplace else. So that means you can lead change, right? You can lead change and you have participated in change. Everybody, I'm seeing no, nobody saying no. So let's check. Have you danced or hummed to a sound you are not playing? Oh my God, everybody says yes to. Okay, so we have the right group of people here, because I'm also that kind of person. Sometimes the song is not even playing. It was playing yesterday, and I remember and I started nodding to it today. Good. So let's check out the third poll. Okay, have you ever changed routes when driving or directed a driver to your destination? Most people say yes, some people say no. But if you have answered yes to at least one of the three questions, then that means you have participated in change, you have led change, or you have contributed to change. I would now go to introduce you to some other people that have led change or contributed to change in their environment. Okay. So when we talk about change, some names easily come to mind, right? Some names, you talk about change, you talk about, somebody will talk about Obama, Nelson Mandela. You can even have a local change leader in your organization or in your country or in your workplace that comes to mind. And one cool thing is that change, anybody can lead change. There are various kind of people leading change. But what is most important in change is having a change-ready DNA, which I will introduce you to. Right? You see Bill Gates. Bill Gates is one of the leaders in change in terms of technology, and now we can see him influencing healthcare systems and policies. And Sir Timothy John Berners-Lee, most people may not know him, but what I want to let you know is that being a change leader is not equal to being popular. There are two different things. Some people are popular change leaders. Some people are leading change in their spaces, right? And it doesn't make one change leader more important than the other. Like the story of Sir Timothy John Berners-Lee. He's the creator of the World Wide Web. But most people know Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, but they don't know Sir Timothy John Berners-Lee, right? The name doesn't even ring a bell. And that's the thing about change. Change doesn't mean you're going to be popular. You're just be doing things in your corner and you make a difference. For another example is Lema Gbowe. She actually an activist in Liberia during the Civil War that really helped, to appeal for peace and really directed and mobilized the thousands of women to actually push the peace movement in Liberia. Most of us don't know her. And another beautiful thing about change is that change doesn't rely on your age, on your experience, on your discipline. So it's an open field for everybody. But why is this necessary? The World Economic Forum published something amongst other things. I'll talk about about the skills outlook for 2022, right? And they're like, what is going to happen? There's going to be a decline of people looking for skill, like people skilled in technology, installance, and maintenance. And it will shift to creativity, originality, and initiative. Those are the skills people will be looking for. People skilled in complex problem solving, people skilled in ideation, reasoning, people skilled in emotional intelligence. Because as technology keeps improving and real breaking frontiers in technology, then human beings will have to focus their energy and develop skills in these aspects rather than what we were learning before: coordination, time management, quality control, and all that. And one of the top leaders of change leadership is John Cotter. He said this very important thing, that the rate of change is not going to slow down anytime soon. If anything, competition in most industries will probably speed up even more in the next few decades. I would like us to reflect the amount of change we have seen within the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks. These are things that we predicted would happen in 5 years' time, right? In terms of working from home, remote working. But you can imagine what 8 weeks has done, transformed our lives, right? So change is very important. Another important thing is the UN, everybody knows the United Nations, they have the Sustainability Development Goals. These are 17 goals that are going to transform our world. And the ambition was 2030, we're going to get there. They said it, they made that decision some years ago, and it has largely influenced the energy industry and energy leaders now deciding, oh, we have to invest in energy transition, in renewables, in the way we actually take responsibility for what we do to our community, climate change. Some people have made the mark, decided cutoffs. This is the maximum of carbon emissions we have by so date. So that's why change is part of our lives. And I would like to say that every single day we lead change, we experience change, but we do it subconsciously. So by going through this presentation today, it will make you own your change-ready DNA, what's within you already, and identify the aspect you need to develop, identify the aspects you are already strong in, and start applying those things because it's in you. Why is change leadership important?
If I may comment, Sima, please could you go ahead and share your slides? Thank you.
Hello, can you see my slides?
No, please go ahead and share.
Okay. Okay, I hope you can see my slides now.
Yes, we can see it now. Please carry on.
Okay.
Thank you.
So with all these changes happening around us, we need leaders. And this is leaders beyond titles. It's leaders in terms of aptitude and attitude. And what does it take? Because of course, leading change and contributing to change has a risk. So I want to tell you what's in it for you. Remember the skills that are required in 2022, in the 2022 workplace. You need to build your critical thinking and problem skills. Participating in change helps you develop that. It helps you to scale impact to lives, the business, and society. So if you're an entrepreneur, it helps you to scale your business. Even in your personal life, it helps you to scale what's working for you to impact other people and our society in terms of policy influencing and implementation. It also expands your possibility and horizons, because in dealing with change, you have to be ready to experience failures, right? So expands your possibility and horizons because you partner with people bring in different perspectives. It also helps you increase your earnings and your blind spots, because we know that nobody is the seat of wisdom. You alone do not know everything about everything. So you complement your strengths with people that have strengths your weaknesses with people that have strength in other areas, and in that means it helps you deal with your blind spots. So change leadership is important for everybody at every stage of your life, and no matter where you are in your organization. Change. The most popular definition of change, people say change is to improve, right? The act or instance of making or becoming different. Personally, I do not believe that change is only to improve. I rather know what I'm sure of is that is the act or instance of making or becoming different. Because sometimes change is bad, sometimes change is good. And change is also something like, oh, this technology thing, it's not all good. Every good change has its shortfalls. Every bad change has its good part. So it's not, when you're leading change, it's not the solution to everything. And you have to be open, expand your mind to look at change from these two angles, not only as an improvement. And it makes a difference. It will transform your impact. It will transform the people you worked on. It will transform how you lead change because you'll be more realistic. So in change, there's change management. But change management is around the tools and how you manage change, how you manage it. And is defined as an approach taking an organization to move from current to future desirable state using a coordinated and structured approach. This has to do with organizational structure, tools, sometimes Excel sheets, change management tools and all. I will show a bit of that during this presentation. But change leadership is the most critical ingredient in change. And this is the ability to influence and enthuse others through personal advocacy, vision, and drive, and to access resources to build a solid platform for change. I really like this definition because it really points to the fact that not one person, only one person is not required for change. You need people. You have to be able to influence others, advocate. You need access to platforms. So it's nothing like one person. Nelson Mandela did not lead change in South Africa alone. There were lots of people around him. And the beautiful thing about change leadership is that it's spread, you get access, you share credit with your team, and I'll talk about shared power. So Nelson Mandela is not the only change leader in the South Africa progress that was made in the 90s. So I will introduce you to something I have named a change-ready DNA. This is my definition of a change-ready DNA. It's a profile unique to an individual, defined by behaviors and skills. Unique is very important because it's a DNA. Your change-ready DNA is not the same as mine. It's not the same as Alessia's. It's different. You need to find it. You need to identify it, own it. As I said, we're just going to shift from subconscious things that you do to now consciously identifying these behaviors and skills that helps you to adapt to change and lead change. These skills help the individual adapt to change faster and lead change from where they are with what they have. No force. No force, right? So it's just something that when you start, at the end of this presentation, you would start feeling like, wow, I can do something about this. Maybe I need to call this guy or this lady and ask her, what is she working on? And these are my ideas about it. A change-ready DNA is absolutely critical to do anything in the current world that we are in your life, in your family, in your society, in the church, in your religious institution. It is absolutely necessary for your organization and for your growth and transformation of the world. I will introduce you to my favorite change process models. I talked about John Kotter. I love John Kotter's model because he's not an academic. It's something that he used and he started writing, and it has been criticized as, oh, it's not academic. He's referencing his experience, right? He's not referencing theories and experimentation. But I love it because it is it shows the power of collaboration between academics and people in the industry. And what is something that SPE stands for, right? So he has an 8-step change model. It starts with creating the change, building, Second is building and formulating a guiding coalition. The third stage is developing a strategy to bring about the change. The fourth stage is enlisting people, communicate and put forth the vision or strategy for change. The fifth step is empower employees to take actions or incorporate changes. I would say empower people for taking action to incorporate changes. Formulate and generate short-term goals. Then the final stage is sustain and institute. It means capitalize on the wins or the gains in order to produce bigger results. Incorporate new and better changes in the workplace culture. This is referencing the workplace, but it is something that have applied to my personal life. I've applied to different things that are normally it is not restricted to the workplace. So that's Kotter's 8-step model. Then, and it's really around change leadership. Then for change management, there are several tools. The most interesting one I like and very simple tool is the force field analysis. Force field analysis was developed by Kurt Lewin. He says, for every change you want to make, there's a present state and there's a desired state. There are driving forces and restraining forces. Remember what I discussed about not all change is all good or all bad. So you have to recognize the driving forces for change, the internal forces that are pushing for change in the direction you would like to go, the external forces that are pushing for change. Remember, I referred to the World Economic Forum really looking at the 2022 skills outlook, the UN SDG goals, 17 of them on poverty, climate change, gender equality, access to energy, no hunger. These are external things that are actually influencing change in our communities, in our countries, and in our companies, by all means, in our personal life. There are also restraining forces that are internal and external. I have some examples in my case study that I will introduce you to. I would use to describe this better. A third graphic I would like us to look at is how people process change. I will pause here and I would ask you, when I share this transition curve, you start from the first stage of change is denial, then you get to anger, bargaining, some bit of depression, acceptance, experimentation, discovery, and integration. Let me explain this to you. If you have a change-ready DNA, the first part of the curve, denial to acceptance, it would happen, but it may happen within a day. But if your change-ready DNA is still developing or it's still very subconscious, that curve, denial to acceptance, can take you 6 months. Sometimes it can take people years. So you have to choose how you want to reduce that curve so that quickly you can move into experimentation, discovery, and integration. With respect to this pandemic, what phase are you in? You can put it in the chat box. What phase are you in with respect to the pandemic? You need to take it, you need to reflect and take ownership of the phase you are in, because that, and recognize that phase, because that is the first step towards change, having a change-ready DNA. You have to be aware of where you are. Let me give a simple example. On your way to work, you encounter a roadblock. How many of you just immediately see the roadblock, you just go into a U-turn and you find another route? Some people stay there and come out from their car and walk to the front to just try and look at it, spend some time cursing the bus driver, this and that, and then after some time, they take a U-turn. The person that moves from denial to acceptance faster gets to the office faster on that day. But you can decide, right, once you acknowledge that this happens to you. So let me bust some myths before we go into the case studies. The usual myths about change is that change must be bad or good. Only planned change can succeed. Change can only be driven by seniors, leaders, or appointed persons. The change originator is the most important person in a change success. These are all myths. And you will see why I say they are myths when we go to the case study. Because change can only be driven by seniors. You remember the phases of change that I introduced you to earlier. You could see Malala, you could see young people leading change, right? It doesn't take away from the experienced people position in also leading change, right? We move into the case study. So case study 1 is a personal experience, my experience moving from Lagos to Port Harcourt to get a new job, right? So I'm relocating to a new city. Every change must have a case for change. We are largely working from home now because of a pandemic. So in this case, my case for change is I wanted to be part of a global community and multicultural environment. I was very curious about the world and cultures, and I didn't want to work in a place where I was just going to be interacting with only a particular set of people that have been with all my life. So I was also going to switch from the telecommunications industry, which was just trending and really growing so fast then, to the energy industry. What this required for me is to move from West Nigeria to South Nigeria. West Nigeria had spent 21 years of my life there, and I'm moving to South Nigeria with no family or previous visit. I've never been there before. All I had was an offer letter to start to work for Royal Dutch Shell. So the role I played there, I wasn't like, there was something causing me to move. So I would say I was a change agent within myself, and I had to discover my own change leadership. I will tell you some challenges that I experienced in doing this. I was going to be living alone, right? Living alone. What does this mean? It means, so you're going to be standing alone. Most of the times, especially if you are an idea originator, a change idea, or you're the forerunner and everything, you are alone and you have to start alone, right? There was also the part about new cities, the terrain not understood, the culture and the constraints in that city not understood. No allies. I didn't have friends, nobody in Port Harcourt, right? So I moved to tackle the thing about living alone. I had to maintain my foundation. What does it mean? My core values, my connection with my family and very supportive friends that I had in Lagos, and continued having those phone calls while at the same time developing new friendships, new partnerships in the new world that I found. So when you are standing alone, think of the opportunities and take charge. Yes, you can be pessimistic, everything is not going well, but try to think about opportunities. You can have the first thought is pessimism. They're like, what is the opportunity in this negative story? So for me, that experience unlocked my self-awareness. I had to get the ability to lead myself and others through change. When I say others here, my family, there was a lot of apprehension. Oh, going to Port Harcourt, going to South, how would it be? You know, because of the situation there. But because I could lead myself, I was able to influence my family to accept this change fast, and I still live in Port Harcourt. The most important thing about it and the joy of it and why I call it a success is that I'm building a beautiful family and found my partner in Port Harcourt too. And a lot of change I've been doing is as a result of taking this opportunity. So let's apply Lewin's force field to this simple example of personal change, right? So the current state was stay in Lagos, stay in the city I'm used to. And I wanted to go to a new job, new city. The driving forces for change was desire to join a global community, desire to join a multinational community, and more development opportunities. But the resisting forces against change for me was leaving a newly assigned role in telecoms, which I enjoyed. It was really like in vogue. I really loved it, and had invested in my living arrangements in Lagos, and I had a very strong family and friends network, social network in Lagos. So I had to get to the point where the driving forces for change could overcome the resisting forces against change. It may not fully eliminate it, but the power will shift it and take me towards my vision. And that's what led me to where I am. So if you're considering a change, you cannot deny skepticism, criticism, and the resisting forces. This is a very good model if you want to be realistic about the change you are contributing to or you're leading. I'll go into my next case study, which was a successful one. Remember what I said about the UN SDG goals, gender inclusion, and all that. So this has started influencing where investors spend their money and where investors, support, right? Shareholder value, all those kind of things. So it started shaping, influencing what companies start doing in terms of recruiting people, in terms of their workplace policies and practices. So it's really, really timely. So fortunately, I'm working in a company that takes that importance. So I saw that there was a gap. Something that in the Okonkwo one says, look for the things that makes you angry, the things that makes you mad, and maybe you could start from there, right? So looking at it and seeing that, wow, there's a lot of untapped potential within this space. How can I influence? How can I influence it so that everybody at work feels included? Everybody at work feels that they can meet their potential, right? And there's some practices that you understand that the energy industry was a largely male-dominated industry, and females coming into it was sort of new. But with this, in the last 10 years, we're having a lot more women coming into the industry. So we have to now change some things, some practices that were normal, to make sure that everything is there's inclusion in mind beyond gender, even your tribe, even your personality types and all those kind of things. So sitting back, I thought about this change and said, okay, since I work in production engineering, largely field-based, right? Largely field-based, a lot of guys, how do I help to influence inclusive practices that helps everyone at work feel safe and feel free to speak their mind, and also ask for what they need to succeed? So the challenges experienced during this was rejection and stigmatization. I'm honest with you, change is not easy. It's not easy. Sometimes you have to start alone. And especially for this kind of change, which I was under 5 years in the company when I participated in this, it's the real fear of, oh, being stigmatized, you're not going to be progressed if people look at you as someone that is championing something that, you know, they're not really, that is not really accepted, right? So what I did is just assess the worst case scenario and best case scenario. What can you afford to lose? So that means as a change leader, to have a change ready DNA, you have to be able to do risk assessment. You have to be able to say, okay, these are the real things I'm going to give up to chase my change, because everything has an opportunity cost. So I made the decision to move ahead anyway. You're also minority population. You're young in the company. You're also the minority. So how do you influence change, right? So you need to observe and sense. It is very important. You don't just run into change, oh, I'm going to go with this change. You have to observe what is on ground. You need to consult, understand the need for change, so that you make sure that whatever you're pushing is something that the people need, and there's a win-win value for both the minority and the majority, right? You cannot ignore the majority. You have to secure influential allies with the majority. The skeptics and the majority are not your enemy. In change, the skeptics and the majority are not your enemy. They are very valuable source of information and wisdom to sharpen your change. I've talked about being junior. There's also pessimism. People say, oh, we have tried this and it did not work. We've tried this here, it did not work. This does not work. So you have to do due diligence, find proven examples of success and failures. Be very, very relentless about studying failures, because there's such a gem of information trapped within stories of failures, right? And consult and learn from others. I was able to go around, consult, learn from people that are succeeding in it already, people that have failed in it, especially relatable scenarios. Relatable scenarios. If you're doing a change in Nigeria, it's good to get an example from Ghana. It's good to get an example from like West Africa, right? Rather than getting an example from a place maybe like Norway, that we don't really have similar systems or cultural nuances. So that is very important, to find relatable, proven examples of success. So I would apply Cotter's process to how I led this change, right? So alone, trying to lead this change, you have this idea, it's in your head. You can't achieve it alone. The very first step is to get your facts and data right. Partner with people that already have this data. Some people are already doing work in that aspect. You are not the first person that had the idea. Try and get data and get convincing data that can move in the direction of your change, right? And once you get this data, try and start recruiting a diverse team. Identify strategic allies to develop the strategy with. Diversity is so important in change leadership. You need people that are not like you, people that that are not in the room. When you're trying to make a decision, yes, it's for the minority. You need someone from the majority on your change leadership team to challenge your ideas, to challenge your propositions, to develop a strategy that takes into other people's cognitive diversity. It is very important that your guiding coalition is also made up of credible people, even if in the beginning their energy may be low, they may not be as committed, some of them may be skeptics. I find it very important to have at least one or two skeptics in your team. So once you get your guiding coalition and you have your strategy, then communicate the vision. You guys have spent time thinking, ideating, challenging yourselves in a safe space. And remember, this change was not something that was a pull from the majority, right? So you guys are just working on your free time, trying to get this to work. Communicate the vision with the organization, engage people, launch. In getting that your guiding coalition, it's good to secure a sponsor. Remember what I said about getting an influential, credible ally, especially if you're trying to do something about the majority. Launch this vision, communicate it, and begin to empower people to contribute. Get volunteers involved amongst the minority, and begin looking for early signs of success. Sometimes you don't get the success in a year. Sometimes change is something that is long-term. It may take you 5 years before you see something. But what you could do is to get some early signals of success. You have not got to the promised land, but the rate at which you are going now, engagement level has improved. The performance of people have started coming up. Now people are now talking about the real issues, are reporting cases. People are now bringing great ideas. More ideas are coming out from this population that not ideas were coming out from before. And then you sustain and institute the change. So the third case study is around, it's a failure, right? It's a failure. And remember what I said about really digging into failures to find the gems in failure. This was about aligning with a process requirement. Remember, I work for a global company in over 50 countries. And so you're trying to leverage on best practices and you have a particular requirement you want to adopt. And this didn't go well. And how do you know that it's not going well, right? Resistance. You won't see anybody doing anything, even when you agree that this is going to be done. No response or slow response. Nobody talks about it. You're engaging, you're putting so much work in it, there's no movement. Then some other challenges, some people will tell you, oh, I'm having too many things I'm working on, too many new things at the same time. So my response to this is engage, engage, and engage. Engage with failure, engage with it. Have conversations, communicate. Communication is not only about advocating. Even if I say, oh, I'm an inclusion advocate, access to energy advocate, I like coaching young people, you have to be able to listen, observe, and sense. If you speak to people in a group meeting and they say one thing, try and reach out to them one-on-one. Try and have lunch with them. At this point, you are not advocating for what you want. You are listening. Why is this not working? Why is this not going the way they expect? What could be happening and everything? And you're just taking notes, because this is going to help you convert your resistance and your failure to creativity. Because what if, as I said, you think and believe that change is good, but you have not acknowledged the bad about the change? These people help you to see the bad, help you to see where you're making things more complex, help you to see where you may be duplicating or wasting resources. So be fascinated with failure, right? So that has happened, and that has contributed to my creativity and innovation to say, okay, maybe this mission was not even well thought of in the beginning. You have to be ready to go back and realign your mission. You have to be very flexible, because as things are changing, some missions will change. Some people had some plans this year. Oh, I want to go on holiday. I want to go for 2 conferences out of the country and everything. But now that's not possible. So how do you engage with it? Do you just sit down and say, no, it's impossible? Or really look at it and say, wow, so how are conferences happening now? Wow, SPE has a lot of virtual conferences, virtual webinars. Oh, different people are really producing stuff that actually apply to today's. Let me take advantage of this, whether it's paid or not paid. The last case study I'll be exploring is about changing how you learn from incidents. In this case, I was a change agent. I was not leading. I was on my own, and I was just drafted to a team. And you can imagine, when it's not your idea, you've never thought about it before, it's just a new concept, and you're like, okay, learn this concept. These are some of the challenges I experienced. You know, it was a new approach to investigation. People thought it's a fad, it's going to just last for 6 months. Once the leaders change, it's going to go away. Oh, this won't work here. Nobody will tell you the truth. It won't work here. There are too many things that there's already an existing method that people are faithful to and loyal to. How I responded to it. Remember, I said I didn't ask for this change. I was on my own, right? So you have to have a learner posture. Learn. You don't know. You're not an expert. Being an expert does not make you to be the best person to lead change. I was able to step back, understand, observe, and leverage existing experts in that methodology. They are no local expert. So you have to connect with global people and just take the opportunity to just learn, right? So even if it's a fad, I told myself, I'm never going to waste a crisis. This is an opportunity to learn, even if it's just 6 months, right? I'm going to put myself into this. The worst case scenario is I've expanded my knowledge and my repertoire. Lucky me, this became a well sought out skill, most sought out skill within the last 4 years of my experience in this. I get a lot of offers just because I immersed myself in that present moment and that present opportunity. In terms of this won't work well, quickly, as I said before, find proven examples of success, secure credible allies and testimonies. Find someone, a Nigerian, if it's something that you're trying to do in Nigeria, or you're trying to do it in China, trying a Chinese person or a Nigerian person or someone from that country that has participated in that kind of change. It may have not been in Nigeria, and that person comes in and helps you, give credible examples, relatable examples. So the DNA unlocked here is you don't need to be an SME to influence change. You don't need to be a subject matter expert. That's what I mean. You don't need to be an expert to influence change. You can learn more about the change as you go. But what is very necessary is you must have a learner mindset. Your expertise, you just need to hold it back and just have an open mind that, wow, there's something about this that is different. Let me find out about it, right? So this was just simply explaining how, Cotter's methods, I applied it in this situation, but compressed it into 3 to say you are creating the climate for change. There was a need to learn to make sure that you're making good use of the organizational knowledge and spread, and engaging and enabling the change then before you sustain change. So I would share these slides with you for you guys to look through all these things, but these are the things that were done that made it work, right? Getting buy-in, getting sponsors, getting a first set of people, a team of people that are going through the same thing with you, or even if they're unwilling participants, but they are interested, right? So let's take a poll. From the 4 case studies I have shared, name a characteristic in terms of behavior, right? In terms of behavior, what is the makeup of a change-ready DNA? I've shared 4 case studies. I've hinted at different things. Reflect and name a characteristic. Please take the Menti poll, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results. Okay, I've seen it. Optimism, creativity.
Okay, so the code is posted in the chat room. So please let's go in and put in our responses. The code is 686868. Thank you.
So from the case studies I've shared, thank you, Elise. From the case studies I've shared 4 different case studies about my experience going through personal change and influencing change in the workplace, both as a willing participant or an accidental change agent. What are the characteristics you can identify from the 4 stories that I shared, the case studies I shared about change? Optimism, problem solving, creativity, self-awareness, learning mindset, communication. Okay, someone picked that up. Okay, because later on in the session, before we end, you would identify which of these things you already have and which of them you would need to develop. Remember, you don't need change alone. If you're already strong in some of the change-ready DNA, right, you just need to find out people that are strong in the others and bring them on board. You may not develop it. It's just a good thing about self-awareness being, embracing the fact that you do not know and embracing what you also know. Very, very key. Okay, I'm still looking forward to more responses and questions. Okay, I think people can start putting in their questions because I'm going towards the last, the end of this presentation. Okay, acceptance, resilience. Okay, resilience, self-awareness is really coming out, strongly in this. Okay. Learning, lots of learning, accepting failure, flexibility, open to criticism. Good. Because most people take criticism personal. So sometimes just think of your mission. You don't have to think of the criticism as against your own self. It's the change. And then you need to be curious about that criticism. Question it, have a conversation with it without being defensive, right? Engagement, right? So I'm going to go to the show you like a change ready DNA. Remember, a DNA is unique. You have your own DNA. I'm going to give you an insight into my own DNA, and you can then look at it, and as a first step to developing yours, right? Finding out things within yourself that actually help you adapt to change faster or anything. Okay. This is my change ready DNA profile. Please confirm that you can see my slides. Okay. Curious. People already said, a lot of people said learner mindset. We saw creativity, innovation, resilient. Exactly. Very resilient. Bouncing back power. That's resilient. It means that you stay on it. Sometimes resilience is not the opposite of creativity, but let's just say you're just resilient. You have to be on it. Observe and sense. Observe and sense is super critical because you observe yourself. You also observe others. Observe what is happening. Observe what is supporting the current norm. What is supporting this? Who are the people that have a lot to lose if this changes? Who are the people that are losing currently? Who are the people that are not satisfied with how things are going currently? How can I engage them? And then you begin engaging and communicating. Very important in having a learner mindset is incredible high dose of humility. High dose of humility. Else, you won't be able to, engage with failure and really get the rich lessons that failures give you or criticism, or even talk to skeptics. It's not about your ego. It's about the mission. It's about maybe understanding what people really need. Maybe you haven't done your needs analysis properly. You have to be flexible. And flexibility is tied greatly to creativity. Because if you don't get no, you move with your initial plan. But when you get a no, maybe, then it says, okay, how else can I still achieve this mission? Okay, let me adjust my mission a bit, right? I can't have it all, but I can have some. What are the most important things to the people, right? What is the objective of this? The fact that at the end of the failure, you do not arrive at your planned goal doesn't mean it has failed. The most important thing is that wherever you arrive is where it meets the objective of the planned goal, right? Incredible importance is you're going to be a super collaborator. Shared power, you have to be okay with sharing power and sharing credit. Sharing, remember what I said about cooperating with people to deliver your change. You are the change leader, you are not the change leader. You're not the, all of you in that think tank are leaders of change. Even if you're an agent, you're a leader of change. You have to remove all that agency and take it, own it, you're a leader. Be able to share credit because people will be proud to be part of this change. It's not just you don't know all, right? But bringing people together to achieve a mission is something to really be proud of. And lastly, your character is very, very important. If you're someone that has a lot of beautiful ideas and you're not a credible person, then I would suggest that you spend some time working on your character and recruit some credible people to lead this change, because we don't want to lose ideas just because you are not credible. Just approach it. My self-awareness, I'm not seen as a credible person. I'm not, I don't have the character. While I develop this credibility and character, who are the people that have character and credibility that I can share my idea with and they can go with me? I would partner. I will share power, because holding on to your ideas because you're not credible or you're not power or you're not in the right position, it starves the world of your greatness. It starves the world of your magic. Okay, so you need to be able to be aware of what you need and actively work on building your credibility so that you have the opportunity to lead future change. Now, I would like to end by showing you this, the faces of change. You see, I have taken my position. I have displaced Nelson Mandela. I've put my face there. He remains a change leader in the books of history. I am a change leader now and for the future, right? You too can be there. You put your first name, put your last name, put your teammate. You can't walk alone. You can't walk alone. Even if you do not have all the complete DNA profile, identify the DNA profile that you have strength in and look for people that have the other DNA and combine with them. See Moti Sudha. She's a computer scientist, computer engineering, but she is so, her impact on the world is through writing books and really leading the Infosys Foundation and transforming rural women in the lives of rural in India, right? There are some unknown people on this call too that will take their position in the next phases of change, right? Be fascinated with the unknown, learn as you go. You may not know everything, so people like routines and everything. Yes, remember Elizabeth Ross curve, right? Try and move from denial to acceptance fast so that you can begin experimentation, discovery, and integration. You need to compress that curve, make it happen within a day. Then you can make it happen maybe within few hours. Not years. It can happen within years, but I would like you to challenge yourself that I want to move from denial to acceptance faster. But it also happens in your personal life when you go through grief. It takes time to move from denial to acceptance and start to live again, but it's something that can be done. I'll leave you with a quote from Maya Angelou. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. So we have power within us and we're ready to do the work, right? Find people that inspire you to be courageous and complement your DNA. I can't talk about partnership too much. So we'll take a poll again, the final poll. What are your dominant change-ready DNA attributes? Please respond in the poll. What change can you get involved in? What are you passionate about? What DNA would you like to develop? Please answer these 3 questions in the poll. And I would end by sharing some resources that I found very useful in my journey. I have not even reached half of my journey, 50% of my capacity to lead change, but I am still developing, and I would like more people to develop and realize the value of partnership and collaboration in getting the world that we need. So please, I would like to see what you have identified as your dominant change-ready DNA attributes, looking at what I shared earlier in terms of resilience and the rest.
Okay, so wow. Thank you so much, Isioma, for that really impactful session. So whilst we wait for people to send in the results of the poll, I tend to take us through on what I think that we have heard from this session so far, at least from my own perspective, what I have personally learned from this. So it's been really impactful. So I will start off with Isioma taking us through on some of the skills required in 2020 for change leaders, critical thinking, expanding your possibilities and horizons. She mentioned that change is not about being popular, and that's really important. Then we also looked at certain key elements of change. We have the change itself, we have the change management tools, and then we have change leadership. And out of these three, she says that change leadership is the most critical ingredient of any change process. And she also defined change as the act of making or becoming different. One important thing that I also took out of this session as well is that she mentioned that change is not led in isolation. You cannot lead change in isolation. You need people to support any change program. And then we looked at the change ready DNA, which I understand is unique to each individual. And there are various behaviors and skills that help individuals adapt and lead change faster or quicker. We looked at the change process model, the 8-step change model, which can be applied to any change program, whether it's your personal change program or work-related change program. We also looked at change management tools. One key thing that came out of here was that for every change embarked on, there's a present state and there is also the desired state. And this further reiterates what she had earlier mentioned, that change is about becoming different. So for you to be different, there has to be your present state and of course what you want to do as a desire. And then she demonstrated several case studies, shared some, most of which were her own personal stories. That was quite interesting and inspiring. Thanks, Isioma, for sharing all that, especially with the failed case, which there are lots of lessons to be learned from. She said anyone can be a change leader. So you have to look for the things that make you angry and upset and start the change from there. So anyone really can be a change leader. It's really up to you. She also went ahead to say that change is not easy, right? And sometimes, even though she had said earlier that you can't work change in isolation, she also said that sometimes you have to start alone, and that's some of the challenges that come with any change program. But the key thing is that you cannot achieve it alone. You can start alone, but you cannot achieve it alone. So some of these challenges, these are the challenges that come in with any change program. But then you can do certain things. You can change your approach to be able to influence any change, even as a minority in the change program. She mentioned being able to observe, consult widely. You have to constantly risk assess to find out what you can give in and what you cannot give in. You have to consider the skeptics, those people, the majorities. They are really important in sharpening whatever change journey you have. You have to partner with lots of people. You have to get influential and credible allies. And then she also mentioned as well that diversity is really important in any change program. And of course, in the course of most change programs are long-term, but you have to make a conscious effort to find the early signs of success. That is really important to keep the team motivated to strive towards the final goal. She also did share how you know if a change is almost a failed one, using her case study. And one is resistance, the other is, when you have little or no response from people, when you're putting in so much effort without progress. So in that case, you need to change your approach. You have to consult, you have to listen to know what the resistances are and be able to come up with the best strategies to address those resistances. She mentioned as well that we need to be fascinated with failure. Okay, so I think the voting is not open, so people are finding it difficult to vote. So I think it should be open now. So please go ahead and put in your responses. My apologies for that. So she said you have to be fascinated with failure, and that's what helps you to learn from them. She also mentioned that being an expert, this one really struck me, being an expert doesn't make you the best person to lead the change program. You don't need to be the subject matter expert for you to be able to influence the change that is required. You need a learner's mindset. You need to have a learner's mindset. And then we also looked at different change-ready DNA profiles, curious learner mindset, creative and innovative, resilient, observe and sense, very, very important, flexible, aligned, and yet focused, be a collaborator. Be someone who can engage, because it's when you engage, you know what the real issues are and you know how to strategize to address those issues. Humility cannot be overemphasized. Humility is absolutely critical. And lastly, she mentioned credibility. Really, really important if you need to lead any change. I will end this by quoting verbatim what she said with regards to DNA profile. So you can identify whatever DNA profile you have with regards to change ready. You mustn't have all the change ready DNA profiles as your strengths, but you can leverage on people that have the other change ready DNAs, which you may have as a weakness, and leverage on that being their strength in order to lead any change program successfully. So thank you so much, Isioma. So I think people have started putting in their responses, and you can please go ahead and look at those.
Okay, so I wanted to go back to sharing my my screen, but at the same time, I would also answer. I'll also answer some questions, right? I saw. I've seen a question. Have you ever been in a position of an end user of a change process? How would you navigate from that position if you do not agree with the change? Okay, I like this question because there are two things. There's something about agreeing with the change, and there's something about not knowing much about the change. Your agreement, I would ask you, have you tried to understand the change? You may disagree with the change because you do not understand it. And you're looking at things from, oh, it's changing me from normal. It's like a waste of time and everything. Before you make a position that I don't agree with this change, human beings, typically we just like resist it first. Question your resistance out. So what is it? Why don't I agree with this change? What am I afraid of? Sometimes you may say, they're trying to duplicate my work. They're going to put me out of job. Okay, why would they put me out of job? Oh, this is a new technology, this thing I'm doing, okay. So, okay, if the job goes, so what? How can I stay relevant? That may be a trigger for you to actually start building your skills in another line, instead of resisting the change that may come and challenge your job, right? Another thing is something you do not agree with. You have to be very passionate about things you do not agree with. There's something I put in my last slide. I am an advocate for thoughtful disagreement. You need to disagree thoughtfully. I do not agree with this change because these are my challenges. This is how it's going to compromise the objective. And guess what? Sometimes that your disagreement will influence the change program and you become part of the change. But the element of the change will change because you were able to thoughtfully engage and disagree, and then they modify that change. Sometimes maybe because the driving force for the change is so much, is too high for your resistance, you just cooperate anyway. I would ask you that you just need to question the change and look at what can I get out of this. Okay, it may be a new method, it may be a new process. I don't really agree with it, but the company which I work for wants us to do this. So I'm going to be fascinated with this. Shift into learner mindset. Just start learning about it. Sorry, my microphone is muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud.
Okay, just start learning about it. That is really going to help you. And if the change contradicts with your core values, I would advise you that you should make a choice, a decision about your life. You don't betray your core values just to cooperate with a change. If that's when you have really questioned that change. If it betrays your core value, you may make a decision to go work for another company or go to another place and take things that are within your control and lead change, right? Remember, a leader of change, one of the change leadership attributes is creativity. So if you can't contribute to the change because it conflicts with your core values, please create a new path for yourself, right? We don't want to say, oh, I'm leading change and contributing to something that I don't really believe in. But remember, I gave a case study about where I was just sitting on my own. It happened to me, but it's taking ownership. It has come to me now. So what am I going to do about it? Okay, I don't know stuff about this, so I'm going to learn. I'm going to engage with a team. I'm going to talk to people that are experts in this matter and learn. And voila, I'm an expert. I train people, hundreds of people on this methodology. But where did I start from? Nowhere. I wanted to show you resources I love that have always helped. Our Iceberg is Melting by John Carter, Originals by Adam Grant, and that's where I got introduced to the concept of thoughtful dissent and thoughtful disagreement is very key. Crucial Conversations helps a lot with terms of listening, and Cascades, How to Create Movements that Drives Transformational Change. These are some few books, but you may find other ones. Some people on this call are more experts. They can, share it with you. You find a lot of resources on change management, but not a lot on change leadership, and it keeps evolving every day. So I'll ask you to take some ownership of your change ready DNA. Should I say your change ready DNA, and start developing it and cooperating. Let me look for another question. Someone asked about, oops, sorry. Okay, end user of change. I've answered that question. How do you build engagement when the group views you as an outsider? The first thing I would ask is, they view you as an outsider, then it's your responsibility as an outsider to observe and sense. You don't be so ready too early to engage. Engage from the point of learning. Oh, how do you guys do things here? Okay, go to lunch with them, observe and sense. And very, very key, you have to build your credibility deficit. You're an outsider because they don't trust you. Where are you from? Who are you? You come in here from this company, you want to change things. Oh, you think because you schooled here, you can come and change things. You have to invest in building your credibility deficit. And if you want to accelerate and lead that change faster, I would advise you to partner, find someone. And you can't find the right people if you don't observe, sense, and find out, who are the influential people here, who are the people that have what it takes, who are the people that have a high credibility bank in this group, and try and cooperate with that person. As I said, as a change leader, you have to be ready to share power, share credit. So even if the idea is yours, you're the one from Harvard or anything, your credibility is low in this space. Recognize that and share with someone that has power. This is what I'm thinking of. Have the conversations and everything, and let the person co-create with you, right? You should not be thinking mainly, I want to be the popular one. I want to be the one that led this idea. You have to be able to let it go, share power, share credit, so that the change can be run by the people when you leave. Because you cannot, hold on to the change throughout your life, right? Other people have to catch the fire and start lighting their own fires. You have to have that mentality when you are leading change. And remember what I said, leading change doesn't mean title, you're the head of the team and all that. It's everybody in that team contributing to that change is a leader of change. I just need to have a change ready DNA. Is there a difference between problem solving and problem probing? So that's another topic of conversation because that is a whole school of thought. There are difference between problem solving and problem probing. For problem probing is you're trying to understand the cause. Problem solving is around you're trying to understand the cause, then put recommended solutions that can attend to those causes. So I can have another presentation around problem solving because I have some experience with that. Can a disruptive change be effective sometimes, i.e. making changes without the consideration of how others will react? I'm sorry, I can't. I'm trying to scroll down, but I don't know why I can't. Okay, got. Can a disruptive change be effective sometimes, making changes without the consideration of how others will react to it or accept it, enforcing change because of your leadership status and hierarchy? Oh my God. So this goes to what we're experiencing now, the pandemic. Did it ask your permission? It didn't ask. This pandemic did not ask for your permission or cooperation to whether you have fuel in your house to work from home, or whether you have a caregiver for your kids, or whether you're stuck on holidays abroad. It didn't ask for anybody's permission, right? But you would see that some people are recording successes in some areas. Remember what I said? Not all changes, no change is all good or all bad. Some people look at this pandemic from, oh, it's bad, bad, bad. But I must tell you and challenge you that there's some good things about this pandemic. Some families are healing, the waters are becoming clear, the fish in the water, they're thankful, right? That we are not there polluting the environment anymore. The polar bears, the Arctic region, some few good things are coming out of this. So if it's in an organization that you're referring to, a leader may come with an idea, but if the leader just comes and tries to enforce it and you want to respond to it in terms of a disruptive change, I will tell you, please adopt humility and a learner mindset and really question where the mission is going. And if you do not agree with that mission, then you start developing your own plan out. Because if you stay so long in anger, denial, and depression, it stalls your progress, it stalls everything. It doesn't help anyone, including yourself. So it's for you to be able to make that decision within yourself. What am I resisting? Why am I resisting? Ask yourself that question honestly. You don't need to share the response with anybody. But when you think about it, sometimes it's because you have invested so much in the current system. You remember the hours at night you used to develop that macro, that you don't want to believe that an app will just come and you click and everything, is done. Something that you have received awards for, you have been recognized for, your mind will want to protect it because that's the human being's response. So you need to have honest conversations about why you are not supporting that your leaders change, right? And be realistic. Some changes may not serve you, but it may serve a greater goal. It's beyond you. It's not about you. It's beyond you. It may be around the company trying to, make sure that they leave a legacy and move forward to the future. How do you lead a movement when you appear to be the only one with the vision? Going by what you said. Okay. I can't see that. LSA, can you help me?
Okay, all right. So I'll read it out. How do you lead a change movement when you appear to be the only one with the vision? Going by what you said, you need to collaborate with people to often implement change. So in this case, the person is asking, so if I'm the only one with that vision and I know that I need to collaborate with people to implement that change, how do I go about that entire process?
Okay, so as I said, you have to light other fires, right? You have the idea, you have the vision, and don't think that your vision is perfect. Don't just, even if it's perfect, just be humble and feel like, oh, this vision is not perfect. I need other people to build this vision with me, right? And start looking for credible allies, looking for skeptics, start trying, and you have to take risk. Start discussing it. Something I did not, maybe I did not share, is that I just started from people around me. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? They didn't know what I was going to do. What do you think about this? And of course, some people said, the person is joking. Who's going to build the car? You just lose your job. You won't move forward in this company. All those kind of things. You get that. It's okay, great. You ask questions. Just stay in that position of observing and sensing, right? And be prepared to light the fire. The first person that tells you, maybe, my goodness, you need to celebrate it. Take a bottle of champagne, give yourself some pizza, be happy. and start talking to that person more regularly, get the person's idea. Why did you say maybe? What do you think about? So what do you think are the resisting forces towards this? And they will start talking and be like, okay, this is how I challenge it. And that is about building a guiding coalition and securing allies, right? It takes some time. I think one of the change I was talking about, it took me about 4 months to go from building building allies, securing allies, building a guiding coalition to launching. It took 4 months of discussion with people and killing my ego when people say no, when people suspect you, like you want to do this because of something else and all that, and just realizing that, man, the mission is beyond me, and you just keep going and taking feedback from the skeptics and building it into your plan. Remember, when somebody says no, why do you think it won't work? Be fascinated with it, like, because that's where your perfect vision will be formed, from actually trying to build in the skeptics' resistance and the reasons they are resisting it into your plan. Is there any other question? I can't see below that. Okay, I've seen something. Change should be successive. Is that a question or a comment?
I can help read that.
Please
Okay,
help
so I
me.
think yes, okay. So it's a comment and a question as well. So it says change should be successive. Sometimes it is a bit difficult to get others to buy your idea. How best do you drive your creativity home? So I think you sort of answered it in the previous question, but I think this person is talking about creativity or something in that nature.
Okay, so my last slide was talking about change is work. Change is work. Your brilliant idea is brilliant just to you. It may take some time for you to find someone that agrees with your brilliant idea. What I typically do is, once I have an idea, I go to Google, I start joining associations or even free communities that people are just talking about those stuff. I get obsessed about that idea, start reading about it. If you asked me some questions 8 years ago about
Hello, Isema, please could you unmute yourself?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yes, so you just get obsessed about your idea. Don't think that because you had the idea today, tomorrow it should be implemented, or by next week it should be implemented. You know, you have to think about that, Elizabeth, the transition curve I told you about. You have probably reached experimentation. You are ready to experiment with the idea, but every other person is in denial. So people are even out of the curve. They don't know about the change, right? You should be able to recognize and empathize with people. Like, this is where these people are. So how do I move them from denial to anger to depression and then acceptance? That would help you. Don't lose hope. Don't be frustrated and everything. Keep writing about your idea. Keep discussing it. And you maybe somebody's sister, someone that had it third hand, that will say, I'm working on this thing. It's possible that I'd like to work with you. And don't keep your change idea just to yourself and your book and your OneDrive. Talk about it. Talk about it from the purpose of, what do you think? A discussion point, not I'm going to implement this today. Just be more curious, I would say, as to why people don't want to support the idea or why it's not getting home, and give it time. Time actually works. I know we are in the era of fail fast, but some of these beautiful ideas take time. Even the UN, they gave themselves 15 years to actually attend to the SDG 17, and that is an ambition. So take it, I'll say, stick with it, be focused, and be curious, and just try and talk to more people about your change, right? I think that's the last question. I can't see any more.
Yeah, indeed, that's the very last question. Okay. So do you want to see the results of the poll?
Okay, let's see what people have.
Okay.
So people are talking about, 11 people voted. Okay, so learner mindset, understanding the why, growth mindset, curiosity, credibility, and all that. So a lot of learner mindset, learning mindset. So those are the dominant change ready DNA attributes that people have recognized within themselves. So let's go to the next. Let's go to the next one. What change can you get involved in? Wow, this is very interesting. People said diversity and inclusion, sustainability, work processes, work culture, racial injustice, very popular topic these days. It's very, very important and is vital to our transformation and progress as a society. Personal change. It starts from you, self-awareness, patience. Yes, you have to be patient. You can't go with your vision and climb on the mountain and take it and just start shouting out. Remember what we talked about, observing, sensing, listening. A very interesting expert in that is Otto Sharma. You can look at the Presence Institute on how to really make your change work. It's about slowing down, sensing. So you require a large degree of patience. The action, madam. And if you don't have patience, get people on your team that have patience. I don't believe in, being perfect all around before pressing go, right? So get someone that has patience to help you do the sensing and all while you do your ideating. So let's go to the next one. What DNA would you like to develop? Emotional intelligence, open-mindedness, creativity, art, flexibility. I'm telling you, especially when you have been in a society and you have prepared yourself with the norms of that society, making your mind a flexible thing. But with some progress in neuroplasticity, realize that our brain can really learn. You can unlearn, relearn, right? Some people want to do more research, good. Be very good. You can unlearn, relearn, and unlearn what you learned last year, right? So keep giving your brain challenges. And that's why I said fascination with the unknown, fascinated with failures, no's make me happy, they delight me, and engage with the no. The fact is that someone tells you no doesn't mean the person is the enemy. It doesn't mean the person is the enemy. Just try, even if the person resists you, try and have a conversation with the person. I'm curious, why did you say no about this? What's about? And listen, move your advocacy, put it to the back, and really get to the deep of matter, because the person may just be giving you some ideas on what you need to change about your vision, right? So I can see that flexibility and open-mindedness. So the one key question I ask myself when I want to open my mind a bit better, I'll be like, okay, so what is this teaching me and what are my alternatives? What is this teaching me and what are my alternatives? I must say that even before this presentation, myself and Alessia, I encountered a change, and I tried to move fast from denial to acceptance that, man, what we planned before was not working. So what can we do going forward? What is this teaching me? PowerPoint, PDF, okay, that's not working. What do we need? The objective is that people on this call can see the slides, can see the information I want to share, and we made it work. I hope it was a good investment of your time, and thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Isioma. I mean, it's been really, really impactful. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. It's been really great, and the most important thing was that you used practical, real life examples to share your insights and your experiences. So thank you so much. I don't know if there are any more questions coming in. Okay, I think there's one last question, and this will be it. So I will read out that question, and it would be a wrap after this. So it says, change management or change leadership have become buzzwords, especially in the corporate world. Can you share your thoughts on change motives?
Very good. I hope we have more than 5 minutes. I'll give it a shot. So in what I've learned, and I think I developed that bit of thoughts, that part of my learning last year is about motive, right? People say you judge others' motive to do what, but you have a motive too. But sometimes, so far the objective is same. That's all you need. So even if someone's motive is to get ahead, get recognition, get this, get that, you don't have to have people with the same motive to actually on your team to lead change. What must be the most important thing is to have people that have the same mission in terms of the goal is the same. We want to drive from Lagos to Sokoto, right? This person's motive is to stop 4 times on the road to distribute flyers for their political campaign. But does the person want to go to Sokoto? Yes. Can you drive in the same car? Yes. So what does that mean? So when you go, when the person stops and is distributing flyers for his political campaign, you go and you're engaging with the rural women and saying, okay, I need you to get education, I need you to get educated, I need you to go to school, I need you to do that. And you get into your car and you continue going. You do not have to have the same motive to actually, that's my current position. And as I said, as I get more experience, I evolve. I'm not the same person I was in November. I'm not the same person I was in March. So you need to embrace that your ability to evolve, because that's the only way you can actually sustain that. So yes, change management and change leadership have become buzzword because the corporate world is responding fast to what is happening. The pandemic, people that didn't care about change and developing change leadership DNA, on developing change characteristics in the leaders that they have realized that, man, this leader is not fit to carry us through this change. And they look for the next leader that has developed thought leadership, is resilient, is humble, is open to change, is flexible, is creative. That is the next leader that's the leader that the world needs now. Some CEOs are going for workshops in Harvard and everything, trying to play catch up. But change management, of course, you can't just be leading change and nobody's recording how when you reach this milestone, the next milestone you need to do your communication strategy, your communication, if you guys are getting wins or not. So that's what happens in the change management bit. That one is the work, like work so that you can show people, so you can manage the whole process of change. But change leadership is just around thoughts and behavior and how you engage and all that. Someone needs to build a strategic plan to say, okay, we engage at this level first, then we go to this level. Oh, what's the feedback about this? So it's very necessary. I don't think because it's a buzzword, people that are like, I beg, everybody's talking about it, I won't do stuff about it. I think that you need to just, you're only responsible for yourself and how you respond to it. Start from there. Be self-aware. Develop your change-ready DNA so you can adapt fast before you now begin sharing your ideas and all that. And remember, partnership is so important. It's so important. And if you become a good change leader and have a change-ready DNA, imagine the impact you will have in your life. Before then, your family and your organization, then the business and the world, right? Is worth doing.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Isioma. I think this would be all. We won't be able to take any more questions. Thank you so much. It's been really, really, really impactful. And even your response to this very last question really brought it home. It doesn't matter what the person's motive is. Do you need the person, right? That's what matters. Do you need the person to meet that mission, to achieve that mission? Will the person be able to contribute and partner with you to achieve that mission? That's all that matters, because change is bigger than you as a person. So thanks so much, and that would be all we would have. I'd like to send my appreciation especially to Isioma for taking out time for the past almost 1 hour and a half, taking us through becoming a change leader. And I'm hoping that we can all take on the insights that we have gained from today's webinar and apply them to either our personal lives or in our various organizations. So I'd like to say thank you everyone for being such a good and engaging audience as well. Stay tuned to SPE Lagos section activities. Stay tuned to our social media channels, and we'll share with you further upcoming activities. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you, Elise. I'm supported by a big family, and a village of cheerleaders. My husband worked on some of this slide yesterday. So I would like to appreciate everyone and all my friends that, did a dry run with me yesterday. I don't work alone. I don't think we were made for that. So thank you so much. And I've learned a lot by preparing for this presentation. So thank you, SPE Lagos, for being very dynamic and very inclusive in your offering. Thank you.
Thank you, Selma. All right, cheers.
Bye-bye.